Good morning, everybody. I am Wendy Nystrom, your host for Environmental Social Justice.
Okay, I will. Let me get on this. Okay,
Joy is on a call right now, not realizing that she is live.
There we go. Welcome to live. Welcome.
Welcome to live, Joy. Our co-host Joy Langford, my other co-host Joel Vendette, and today we have Kim Krempien. She is one of the founders for Other Lives Studios, which focuses on removing fast fashion from our lives. So welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. So what is Other Lives Studios?
So Betsy and I started Other Lives because we're both sort of veterans of the fashion industry. She's worked as a designer for 15 years, and I've worked in production and event management. And we really just saw how much waste the industry produces. We're both really passionate about the environment and conservation, and starting a workshop to help people hold on to their clothing for longer seemed like one way that we could make a dent in the overproduction of clothing, and in particular, the waste problem that the fashion industry faces. Yeah. So that's what we do. We hold in-person and live on Zoom workshops to show people ways, exactly, to show people ways to like reimagine and remake their clothing. So we've done everything from a marble dye workshop to a metalwork, introducing metalwork into your clothing. We've looked at how to repair your jeans using like ancient Japanese hand sewing techniques, lots of different fun things that really draw on our design background. So it's more than just like tie-dyeing a pair of socks. It's really trying to get you in that design mindset and like thinking about how you can fall in love with your clothing again in a really interesting way.
So it's really not helping people create like their own Etsy store. Like you're actually, like let's not be crafty and sell shit. Like actually repurpose what you've got.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. And I think a lot of it is trying to get out of this mindset that like everything is a commodity and everything has to be a business. So it's like we maybe somewhat naively want to go back to the time where people actually invested in their clothing, not just financially, not just from the perspective of like spending more on a piece of clothing, but really invested in it in terms of taking the time to take care of it. Because that used to just be common practice, like repairing something when it had a hole, or like resewing a button, or shining your shoes, like these things were common practice. And we've sort of fallen out of that because it's so convenient to buy something new instead of taking care of your old pieces.
I think that's kind of like a big.
Betsy is the other founder of Other Lives Studio. Came in a little bit late, but that's okay. Welcome, Betsy, and thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No, Joel was asking a question.
So
okay, I'm so sorry.
We were talking about taking care of clothing, and I think Kim, you're making a good point. I mean, I actually washed a pair of shoes for like the first time ever because I'm like, I love these freaking things, and I don't want to buy new ones because they're just great. And I'm realizing, holy crap! So I was able to do like 3 or 4 pairs just hand washing them, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So I mean, there really is. We become a disposable society. We just have, whether it's our furniture, our clothing, you name it, it's meant to be, okay, buy it, use it, throw it out, replace it. So I think it's interesting what you're trying to do is to get people to reevaluate, not necessarily buying new stuff that's like, high-end, super luxe, don't even get me started on that word, but just buying goods, but actually maintaining what you have. Mm-hmm. We don't focus on that anymore. We focus on replacement.
Because people want new now without having quality.
Mm-hmm. And we're focused on trends. We've gotten so accustomed to what's the next trend. Okay, this is now in the stores, and the stores are changing so fast that you feel like you have to play catch up.
And I think part of this too is actually empowering people to feel like they can do it themselves. Like if they want to jump on a trend, they can, but actually they can make it themselves, which is really lost in our culture of consumerism right now. There's no empowerment in terms of like saying you can do this. You don't need the brand. The brand is meaningless. The only value it has is the value we give it. So if you don't buy into it, that's okay, and I love that. I think Betsy and I just love like giving people that power back to like get them excited about making something and feel ownership over something that they've created. Like there's no better feeling.
Yeah,
There's always
been a pretty big minimalist as far as like clothing goes. I make sure that I buy pieces that will stand the test of time. Along with that, you also want to complement it by, healthy eating, staying fit, whatever your body type is, so that clothes, no matter if you bought them at Ross or on Rodeo Drive, fit you the way you want them to fit you. So, I've always called it being cheap, but being a minimalist, especially with, clothes is actually something that's achievable. You're always looking respectable. If you move away from the trends, such as you're saying, and move more into durable pieces that will last, that are minimal, you'll always have a great classic wardrobe. And I think people are starting to really see that with the amount of clothes that are just sitting in warehouses that have come from China that they can't even sell at Ross or TJ Maxx anymore, especially post-pandemic. So
yeah, and there's always a way to do both, right? Like speaking on trends and fits, like that's the thing that Kim and I do with Other Lives. Like we try to teach you how to remake a fit of a garment you have that no longer fits you, if it's too big or too small, with design details. Or we teach you how to take like an old tattered sweatshirt that's in your closet and apply some sort of trendy design detail that is somehow still timeless. You can have both worlds. Like you can do both. It's just a matter of doing it in a more sustainable way, in a way that closes the loop instead of like adds more to the landfills. But that's what we try to do.
I'm just going to dive in just so people catch up, because we had a pre-conversation with these guys. So people are like, so Other Lives, they take your existing wardrobe and you can individualize it to your taste, what you want it to look like, and have your individuality come out. So when I was talking to Kim, one of the things I used to do as a kid was I would draw on my clothes, or I'd draw on my shoes. I lost that capability as I got older, thinking, oh, I can't touch that. It's too good. These guys are bringing that back. They're going to teach you how to do that. So Kim and Betsy, like, where are you guys located? You're online. How do people just get this, get this individuality back?
I just love that example, and I'm like, okay, let's have a drawing class. Like, can that be the next thing that we do? Because like, how fun. I mean, I remember doing that in high school when I was bored in class, just like drawing on my sneakers
or your hand.
Totally, or your hand, or your jeans, or like literally whatever was within reach. It's just so bad.
I mean,
my mom
it's
actually
about a sense of play, right? Like,
No,
that's
exactly.
what fashion is.
Exactly. It should be fun, and it should be, you should feel a sense of ownership. You should feel like you can do that. Like, nothing's too precious.
Yeah.
You bought it and you own it, and you should feel like a connection to it, a personal connection.
I'm glad you said that. There are certain pieces I bought that I'm afraid to touch. Like, I buy them like too good to ever wear.
And then you never wear them.
I know.
Like, get them out, dust them off, wear them.
I know.
Exactly. But on your previous question, Betsy, do you want to talk about kind of where we are and how we offer the classes?
Yeah, so we do it a variety of different ways. We have virtual workshops, which are on YouTube. And we also do in-person workshops. We just started doing those this year. That was a whole plan before the pandemic, but COVID happened. So we're doing them this year. We just did a really fun marble dye workshop in Los Angeles, where we just basically taught this gorgeous Japanese marble dye technique to kind of over dye any stained or boring or old piece that you just kind of wanted to give life again. And we're going to have a jewelry workshop coming up before the end of the year in either November or December. We're still working out the details, also in Los Angeles. So yeah, we hope to do it in other places. Kim's done one in Canada. So more to come for sure.
Yeah, we'd love to
We're
offer
on Instagram
anywhere and everywhere, because
yes.
we see that people need these techniques.
Yes, and it's so fun. It's so much fun just getting everyone together and teaching them this little technique and just seeing them run with it and create their own things and give everything new life again and be excited about learning and actually playing. It's there's such a sense of play and having something new again that they created. It's just such a personal connection when you've had your hands on something and you get to wear it.
Mhm.
When you make something truly yours, you're going to wear it more often.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I still love the fact that you're talking about doing these things as creating something unique, as opposed to, I hate using this word because it's got such a bad connotation, but crafty. Because
Yeah.
I mean, we always think about, I mean, or at least I do, this will probably show my age, but when we started talking about individualizing clothes back when I was a wee little lad, the whole thing was Dazzler, you know? So it's like, it's about, we've kind of moved beyond that phase, I'm thinking. So this is actually really fascinating that you guys are doing this and creating this outlet for people, because a lot of people aren't thinking about the repercussions and what it means for our environment. And
Mhm.
when you throw away or try to, you know, you think you're recycling your clothing, you're donating them, and they actually don't do what you think it is, what
Mhm.
Yeah.
the intention is.
Can I just jump in a statistic real quick, Joel? I read yesterday from the EPA that 84% of all donated clothes end up in the landfill.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things that really spurred this for me personally was working at a women's center in downtown Los Angeles and sorting through their donations. It was devastating. Like we would receive bags and bags and bags of donations every single day, and we could only use like a tiny percentage of that. And then we would try and redonate to another center, and then they would try and redonate, and it would just be this endless cycle, but it never ended. Like we just didn't even have the space in the end. We dedicated 2 separate sort of storage spaces to the donations, and they would fill up immediately. And I just was overcome with the scale of waste and the fact that people thought that just because they were bringing it somewhere, it was being taken care of. And that is not what happens.
And that's just donations. Like when you talk about the fashion industry, what happens to styles that are defective? I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pieces in production just get destroyed because they can't sell it because of their own practices internally with different retailers. And we can go on and on with all these horror stories because we've just been doing this for so long and we've been seeing so much. But I think there's a lot of hope, and that's what we're trying to kind of instill. We're trying to close that loop, like provide some solutions, like even if it's a tiny little one.
Yeah. Isn't it fair to say we've maybe probably hit a tipping point of consumerism? We have too much stuff.
Joel's like, no, I hope so.
No, no, because I think as a society, we're in this more gimme more phase. And I think we all, every single person, whether it's those of us on the call, those of us watching, not watching, we all have something in our lives where we're like, I just want more of this, or I need this. We're all guilty, whether it's clothing, you know, furniture, I mean, accessories, anything in life. I think we all look for things. We're like, oh, give me the next trend.
Yeah.
I do it. I'm guilty of it. I'm just going to assume, you know, that question, if one person has it, everybody else has it. So I don't think that the day of consumerism is going away, because in that we've got, you know, if you don't get something delivered to you in 24 hours, you think it's taking too long. So I think we're still on this now phase. But I want to go back to something that you had mentioned, Kim, which is fascinating to me, is that I think people have the intention that when you're donating your clothing, you're donating these items to these organizations, that's it. They're done. They get to do it. So I believe the intentions are really good for people, but I never would have known that. I never would have known that it, you know, they think it's passed on and down and down and down, hoping that someone will take it. So I think that's something for people to really know about. Interesting.
And I think, I mean, it's the same with anything we buy, right? We just hope and cross our fingers that like when we're done with it, it's going to go to a good place. It's going to go to product heaven. And it doesn't. It doesn't. It just goes to a landfill.
Product heaven.
Yeah. It goes to that like giant plastic mountain in the ocean. Or that clothes mountain in Chile. You know, I mean, we have to face the reality of our overconsumption. And this is one way we're trying to address it kind of at the source in terms of consumer behavior and changing the mentality. You need something new all the time. And if it starts with clothing, maybe it will bleed into other products, hopefully the rest of their lives, and they're more mindful about everything that they buy. That's the goal.
And in some ways it satisfies that need for something new, right? Because you're creating something new out of something old, and it just kind of like teaches you on some level, it makes it click, right? Like I could do this with everything else, not just clothing. Like what else can I do this with? And that's kind of the hope, like that we have this bigger ripple effect in like consumer mentality and close the loop in other industries, not just fashion.
Oh yeah.
Now there are industries where there's like the automotive industry. I know that a lot of them are looking at renewable materials for interior cars. Is this kind of thing where the clothing can be used for different industries as well? Like, do you see a marketplace for that to happen?
There are companies that take wasted clothing or excess fibers from production and recycle that and turn that into either, like Nike does it with soles for shoes. There's companies that do that with carpet. I think there needs to be more of that though, and that needs to be more marketed because, you know, like it's not common knowledge that that happens. Like Nike has a program where you could donate literally any, no matter how tattered and disgusting a piece of clothing is, like you donate it, you take it to their drop-off locations, which I believe is their stores, and they just take that and recycle it into soles for shoes. But there needs to be more of that in the industry, in all industries across the board. But yeah.
There's a huge amount of infrastructure that needs to happen to like support a textile recycling kind of program, I think, in the US. And right now it's mostly done by private companies. So there are like companies that will come and like pick up your old whatever, if it's like discarded textiles, like Betsy was saying, or like huge bales of discarded clothing, and then sort it and either mechanically or chemically recycle it to make a new fiber. But there's still actually a lot of innovation that's happening between mixed fibers versus single fibers and what they can create out of those pieces, because it's very rare that you have a garment that's just one thing. And so you have to like go through and kind of like take it out and separate the fibers, and it's like a little bit complex, but there's definitely potential there. And I think we have enough clothing that's in production right now to create fabric for probably the next 100 years. Like there's just there's so much. That's our resource. That's our natural resource right now. It's just like discarded clothing. So we need to really utilize it.
So that's actually a good and interesting topic, is what about the fabrics? Because, you know, whether it's cotton or a blend or a poly, like how does that impact what you're doing as well to help people try to repurpose that?
Well, like as far as what we're personally doing with other lives, like it just kind of depends. Like for instance, like for cotton and linen and silk fabric, like we have the option right now of the marble dye because that takes dye really well. Everything else, like we kind of like take it as it comes. So for instance, if it's a hole, like we've done like embellished holes, like if no matter what the fiber is, you know, a cashmere sweater, like polyester, denim, whatever it is. Or what else have we done? We've done embroidery, beading. So kind of we're trying to find solutions that kind of cover all bases as far as contents go. Hopefully someday we could, you know, have a bigger impact. We also are looking to do the patchwork kind of project, Kim, that we've been kind of playing with as far as kind of upcycling materials, no matter what they are, to create new fabrics out of them as well. So that's kind of something that's in the works with us as well. Hopefully we can access like discarded fabrics from production to do that, or even development from sampling. Kim, I don't know if you want to expand on that.
Because one of the things that we saw in terms of a major source of waste is the development process with designers. So they'll create a range, and it's so often in multiple sizes, to show to buyers and to shoot the collection. And then after that point, some of those styles are dropped. Sometimes as much as 70% of those styles are dropped. So you end up with like these sample ranges that aren't going into production, but they're like perfectly wearable, viable pieces. But they're sort of in limbo because you don't want to release them because people can't buy them. So it's like, what do you do with that? So we're trying to figure out ways to kind of either remake those samples and like use some of the techniques and skills that we've established with other lives to turn them into something else, break them down into just like their parts, I guess, and use the fabric for patchwork. We're really interested in working with designers too, like Betsy's a designer in the industry, working with other designers who work within fashion, so we can give them these skills. They can start thinking about this in the design and development process, because it's so important to be thinking about the life cycle and end of life for garments at the beginning, actually.
Because don't they have, like, those samples that don't get used, don't they just get burned so that way it can't be copied?
Sometimes.
Depending on the brand, sometimes they get resold in sample sales, sometimes they get sold into Crossroads, like things like that. So it just kind of depends. It's it's a lot of waste in our industry.
We're just like, oh, there's so much. There's so much.
Even when it comes to the design process, like swatches, like we have so many swatches, and that's kind of also another way we wanted to use patchwork as well, because there's just little pieces of fabric. It's like, what do we do with them? Like, we're not going to throw them away, you know? So we're just kind of trying to find ways to resolve that on every level, whether it's personal, whether it's industrial. We're also looking into applying these concepts with old styles at retailers that have their own private labels, and they no longer like feel that they're sellable, or they're just not moving, or the trends move too fast and they came too late. So we're looking into kind of partnering with them to take these styles, redesigning them, and having them become something new, so they don't end up in a landfill or burned. So there's a lot that we'd like to do.
It's so funny because, like, as we're talking, I'm going through my closet right now, and I know some of the stuff that I bought, which I haven't worn in years, but I spent so much freaking money on it that I regret it. I won't describe some of it because even I'm like, well, what the hell was I thinking? But I mean, you know, I've got like one of my all-time favorite sweaters I probably bought 30 years ago on a clearance sale, and it was this great wool sweater from a store that is unfortunately no longer here. But it's like to the point where you can see through it, like the wool is worn down. It's freeing, and I'm like, I can't get. It's like the perfect cut, like Joy was saying. It is and as I've gotten larger, because I'm getting older, it's still the perfect fit, and it's got a little stretch to it, so that's okay. But you know, you can't get rid of some of these things, so it's just what do you do?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, send us a picture and we'll design something for you. But I'm thinking patches. I'm thinking you could even do the whole piece. Like Betsy did
like
a really beautiful sweater. Yeah, this one.
It's like plate.
It's a black, like, tunic kind of thing, and I just wear a long sleeve T-shirt underneath it. So I'm like, oh, that hides all the fraying, and it works perfect.
Yeah, I mean, totally.
Your clothes don't make the man, Joel.
No.
Thank goodness for that.
But they do help.
They do.
They definitely help.
But I'm excited about projects like that because, like, you love it so much, you want to hold on to it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have a few pieces that are probably older than you guys.
I'd love to see them.
I know. I like very delicately when I do wear it. It's like you very carefully put it on. You don't move in it. You take it off. But on that, we're heading into our 20-minute mark, or past 20 minutes. What's the best way for people to reach out to you? Because I honestly think that workshops like this are awesome for groups that want to get together, have a little fun, and recreate their entire wardrobes.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
Please find us. We're on Instagram, Other Live Studio. Our YouTube is Other Live Studio too, so you can find us on both of those.
Our website is otherlivestudio.com.
Our website is Other Live Studio, and then you'll see the contact information in there as well. But definitely reach out.
Yeah, I mean, I just
would love to hear
a group of people getting together and just bringing a couple loads of clothes and being like, help me.
Totally.
Yeah, that sounds like fun to us.
I know, that's like a dream. We're like, yes, bring us everything.
We've got to bring our individuality back.
Oh no.
What?
Like, have you people? I'm sure they show up with stuff and you're just going, oh no. On the inside.
Oh, there's always a way. You know, that's the thing. It's like seeing. To us, we try to see solutions, right? So it's like if we see something that someone else thinks is like discardable, we'll find a way. You know, that's part of the fun challenge for us as designers is like, what can we do? So that's the kind of thing that excites us.
Well, this is exciting stuff. I love the fact that you guys are trying to resolve our waste issue, because we have a huge waste issue. Overconsumption is the start of it. So guys, shop your own closet, go to these guys, rebuild your wardrobe in what fits you and what works for you and what represents you. Not a brand, not a label, not what the magazines are telling you. Make it about yourself. So take care, guys. Check out Other Live Studio. They're awesome. They're in LA. We will see you guys soon. Take care. I'm
Thank
Wendy.
Thank you
Next.
so much.
All right,
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.